Hello, everyone. This is our Catscape, joined with Jewpiter, and this is Kaggot. Just stop asking us what it means. We're not going to tell you.
Sounds like you're saying a racial slur and something really homophobic at the same time. Just going to throw that out there. I
How
don't know if
dare
I'm comfortable doing this podcast. I don't like bigotry.
we are not to be held responsible for anything that you may or may not interpret about yourself or this podcast. It's all you.
I would just like to give a quick shout out to a company called CustomInc.com. They are not sponsoring this podcast, but I made this Andrew Breitbart shirt and did it up. And after like 5 times wearing it, the armpit ripped right out, Obviously, I'm huge, and I get that. I'm big. That's not their fault, I'm a beefcake. But I contacted them, and they didn't even contact me back. They just sent me a brand new version of the shirt. So that was very nice of them, and I want to say thank you.
Thank you, company that should be sponsoring us, because it isn't. We want money.
And we're family friendly.
Yeah.
I mean, he is.
Especially me. But
all right, let's start the show. What are we talking about today, kitty cats?
We're talking about the battle of the billionaires today. We're talking about Trump v. Bloomberg. The weird circumstances in our country where 2 New York billionaires appear to be battling it out for the presidency of our country.
Goliath versus Goliath. My favorite, something that's being overlooked is the fact that Hillary Clinton was apparently being looked at for Bloomberg's running mate, his vice president. And they were like, well, you can't do that because you're both from New York. You need 2 different states. And Bloomberg goes, I own a house in Colorado. I own a house in this state. I'll just change my address. It's like, you are such a dick. You are such a dick. Like, you are just such a dick.
He already bought his way into the Democratic debates. I love how hypocritical the Democrats look about this, considering that they made this big stink up for like years about rules and how everything is supposed to be done a certain way. They wouldn't do shit for Yang or Tulsi, and then Bloomberg's like, "Hey, want my money?" And they're like, yes. How much lube should we use? Do we get to use lube? Oh, okay, no, fine. We'll do it dry.
It's what's phenomenal is with all of his money, Bloomberg, he bought up all this. We'll go into this later in the podcast. One thing I want to say is, as we know, he bought up all these influencers, and I want to talk to you about that. I don't know if you and I talked about this yet, but he was like messaging social media influencers and Instagram influencers saying like, make memes about me. But he spent $500 million so far, and it's the beginning of the race on social media, and he made these billboards for Nevada. And one of them says, Trump likes his steak burnt. Bloomberg likes his medium rare. And it's like, what you're saying is like trying to like reach people and show that you're not some out of touch asshole billionaire. You say, oh, Trump likes his, steak, well done. Whereas Bloomberg has a refined taste. It's like, I guess you showed Trump. You're really going to win the working class that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's funny how even though Trump is associated with, images of obnoxious wealth, like gold and, just gold. Whenever I think of Trump, aside from his hair, I usually think of gold. Like that's often the first thing that comes to mind because the man likes gold. Like I'm surprised he doesn't have a grill. But despite that, somehow Trump despite that, Trump still somehow comes across as way more relatable than Bloomberg, who most people they don't know who he is. He's just like some guy with a Jewish sounding name from New York that's apparently worth a lot of money that otherwise, unless you're a New Yorker, you probably never heard of.
Well, the thing about that is Trump is the blue collar president, the blue collar billionaire rather.
Yeah.
And what you just said, like when you think of like ostentatiousness, like just in your face, flamboyant wealth, gold toilets, gold pillars, gold everything. If you gave a blue collar, like if you gave one of like the guys I work with on like a job site a $5 billion, that's what they would create, you know? Like Trump did with his billions what all of us would, like what normal folks would do. He balled out. He got, Swedish model wives and gold-plated toilets and put his name everywhere and went on WWE. He partied. Bloomberg used his wealth to buy a third term in New York so that he could tell you what size beverage you can drink out of. That's the difference.
Oh, that's right. Bloomberg is the one that did that. That's yeah. So I have to ask you, how? I mean, like, do you think that's going to come up in the debates? Like, because Trump loves to hammer on exploitable weaknesses, and do you think that that something as simple as just like you're the guy that tries to tell people that they can't have large soda, like that's going to be.
You're saying the Trump Bloomberg debates, not the Democratic debates.
No, I don't care about the Democratic debates. I don't think anyone does.
Okay, yeah, okay. Of course. And the reason I asked that is because it's like it wouldn't come up at the Democrat debates because they want to tell you what size beverage you can drink. They want to tell you how to live your lives. But the thing is, Bloomberg is the perfect representation of the Democrat Party because they want to tell you, like, my dad bought a Cadillac, all right? It's his pride and joy. He's like, oh, me and Ray Donovan drive the same car. He loves his Cadillac. But he has something in the Cadillac called what's that?
I said he's going to be buried in it, won't he?
Yeah, he just loves it. And I love that he loves it. I call it the Batmobile. It's super cool. But anyway, he has this button in it that he calls the Obama button. And my dad's 65. Every time I get in the car, he tells me this same story. And I hang out with my dad all the time. Yet every time I get in the car, he tells me, he goes, I got to turn off the Obama button. The Obama button is when you're idling or at a red light, the car's engine idles. It shuts down until you start the car up. And if you hit this button in his car, it turns that feature off. But Obama, he calls it the Obama button because Obama regulated our cars so that to save green, to reduce carbon emissions. But my dad's so proud of the fact that he turns off his Obama button, because people like what?
His act of defiance.
Right. People hate being told what to do. And Mike Bloom and the Democrats love telling you what to do, how to live your life, what size drink you can drink, if you can smoke, if you can, all of these things. And my dad tells this story to me every time with a smile on his face. Oh, have to turn off the Obama button. Do you know why I call it that, son? And it's like, yeah, Dad. But at the same time, at 65, he still is a young, rebellious guy saying, don't tell me what to do. And Bloomberg is just the manifestation of the Democrat Party. He wants to take 4 ounces off your big gulp. Like, that's how in your fucking life he is.
And whether that's a good idea for like public policy or not, it's definitely not a good idea for. It's not good presidential optics. It's not the kind of thing that's going to play to the individualists, like the kind of people that don't want to be told what to do, as you say.
And my dad is a right winger, always has been, but he calls himself a rhino, and he calls himself a Trump Republican now. But he used to call himself a rhino ever since Rush Limbaugh started calling people that. And he's like a milquetoast right winger, But it's not even the individualist. It's not even the conservative. It's not even the libertarian. No one wants the government telling you what size beverage you can drink. I'll drink as much Coke as I want. And the funniest part is, all you have to do is buy 2 of the sodas, what I call pop, but I've learned to not say that on national broadcast. All you have to do is buy 2,
Strange.
which causes 2 times the amount of plastic.
So that's kind of counter, like the same. It's one of those things that sounds good, but then you find out it's not actually. It ends up hurting the people that it's supposed to help and the planet more. Like
Right.
in California out here, where they banned plastic straws, and so what you have is people. All these places are being forced to use paper straws, and the paper straws are non-recyclable, but the plastic straws were.
Is that true?
Yes,
Oh my goodness.
and you have to ask for it.
Fantastic!
You're
Fantastic!
you have to ask for the straws too. Like everywhere you go, like restaurants are theoretically supposed to get in trouble if they just give you a straw.
I heard that, but my thing is, and by the way, as we've talked about on this podcast and in private, I am a conservationist. I'm absolutely far, far, far on the extreme of environmentalism. Not left-wing environmentalism, but I hate plastics. I hate I go to Giant Eagle, which is my grocery store, and they double bag everything without asking you. And so let's say you spend $200 on groceries. By the time I get home, I have like 40 plastic bags, and you think like, well, a lot of that gets washed in the ocean. A lot of that gets, eventually, or a lot of it, almost none of it degrades, and almost none of it ends up getting recycled. So I get it. But the thing is, the only people that these types of policies help, like the plastic straw ban or more importantly, the big gulp ban. And for those who don't know what we're talking about, Mike Bloomberg instituted a rule that big gulps, like the big containers of pop that you buy or soda that you buy at 7-Eleven or wherever, certain sizes were banned. I believe it was like anything over 16 ounces or 24 ounces. And the only people that hurts are the poor, because they have to buy 2, and because they're going to drink the same amount no matter what you put laws on, and it hurts the environment. Who does it help? The government, because number one, the fines that they make and reap from charging stores that sell over the allotted amount, and the businesses that are literally raping poor people for a big gulp. Like, what? It's all so such bullshit.
I do wonder actually also if in a strange way if it wouldn't surprise me. I have no evidence for this, but it wouldn't surprise me if things like the big gulp ban, for instance, if that's actually in some way what
the point
that it's beneficial to the beverage companies, because then they get to sell twice as many cups.
Right, like that's what I didn't mean like get to the point. I meant like that's kind of the point. Like they do that on purpose.
I thought you were being rude to me.
Sir, you don't, sir.
Kaggot is over. Just torn apart by infighting, drama.
You can blame it all on Maggot the dog.
But blaming things on the Jews is a time-honored tradition, particularly on the internet.
Did you just do a live racism? Did you just do a racism live on camera?
That was MAGA throwing her voice through my end.
I can't wait until the Cats is canceled party. It even sounds good. # Cats is canceled.
Yes!
But
that'll be my new channel, Cancel Cats.
Before we get back to the Bloomberg thing, is that what you were saying? That it's almost like it is a conspiracy theory, but Andrew Breitbart, I was watching an Andrew Breitbart interview yesterday, as I'm wont to do, and he was talking about, he was doing big climate, big education, big Hollywood. These are like investigations into the business behind race politics, climate politics. But it almost seems like all of these corporations are selling this to our youth and using politicians as mouthpieces and activists to sell us shit. I mean, the whole big gulp thing, no one thought that people were going to drink less pop. But we did
Yeah.
know that they were going to buy twice as many plastic containers of it.
Well, it's like the tax on cigarettes, but people pretty. I don't know how. I haven't they. You as a smoker can tell me whether this actually was
I'm not a
true or not. But,
smoker.
yeah, I mean, as someone
Are
who's
you
never
outing
smoked,
me on camera?
as someone who's never smoked on camera, you could tell me about other people who do.
Yeah,
Um, so the
and
amount of
friend.
taxation on cigarettes doesn't seem like it's had a very has it actually stopped people from smoking for the most part, or has it just made people spend more money that they don't have on cigarettes?
For the 5 people that will inevitably watch this recording, that we're very grateful for, by the way, this is why Katz is my favorite human being. That is a question that he doesn't smoke, and the fact that he brought it up, it's something that I know a lot about, and the fact that you just brought that up randomly is why you're just the love of my life.
Oh,
Listen to this. This is true. That a pack of cigarettes, it's changed since the time I've last checked this, but it's under $1 that it costs a pack of cigarettes. This pack of cigarettes cost me $8.42. Where does that $7.42 cost come from? It comes from the fact that the government realized, no, we're not going to ever curb smoking by taxing them. But what we will do is fund our bullshit policies during it. And if you really want to go too deep into it, we could do another episode on this. Follow the money and where the smoker tax money goes into. But it's increased over 100% almost every year. And in some cases, much more than that. So it's a pack of cigarettes costs about $1, let's say. In the other,
in fantasy
in
world.
New York, it costs like $16.
Mm-hmm.
No, not in fantasy world. I'm saying like it costs. That's how much it costs.
Oh, you're talking
Like
about the
that's
actual cost of a pack of cigarettes.
the actual cost that the manufacturers sell it for. The rest goes into tax. That's why everyone was like, so CVS, which is a national chain, so I'm allowed to bring it up. CVS stopped selling cigarettes
Mm-hmm.
because they were being altruistic, of course. Because big corporations, they're known
They
for their
care.
altruism.
They love us.
Turns out it actually started costing CVS more money to sell cigarettes than they were really making. That it wasn't worth it. They were only making a couple shekels. So and when I say shekels, a shekel's not even $1. It's like nothing. It costs cents, pennies and dimes that you make from selling a pack of cigarettes. The rest goes to the government. So they were like, oh, well, we're going to lead the way. But what did end up happening, back to your double-edged sword thing with when the government tries to help, it ends up hurting. CVS, yeah, they weren't making anything from cigarettes, so they were like, fine, we'll just stop selling them. What did end up happening is people like me all over the country were like, well, I need deodorant, I need toothpaste, I need my meds, but why go to a place that doesn't sell cigarettes? I need cigarettes. I'll just go to Rite Aid.
Mm-hmm. So it definitely kind of backfired. They tried to be virtuous about their decision, which really had nothing to do with what they were talking about. Because if CVS really cared about their customers' health, as they claim, they wouldn't sell alcohol then, would they?
And if they were making more than $1 on a pack, they wouldn't have stopped.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's all insane. But yeah, we've taken a nice little detour about
Yeah,
how.
let's get back to the Bloomberg Trump thing.
But and this is related because Bloomberg is indicative of this very hyper corporate kind of old timey Democrat, like big business with a veneer of virtue around it. He's they're trying to make him sound kind of ridiculous. They're trying to make him sound either based or racist, depending who you talk to. Did you see the Sargon video about him?
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Place. Yeah.
Sargon,
Yeah.
it was funny because Sargon made this video where he was just talking about how based Bloomberg is in a completely ironic way because Sargon, of course, doesn't give a fuck about any of these things that Bloomberg is saying. I mean, but it was enough to where some people were triggered to think that Sargon was actually praising Bloomberg. It's like, yeah, the guy who calls Trump the God Emperor is definitely going to praise Bloomberg, but that's just the internet people misinterpreting stuff. But I mean, like literally, he said plenty of things which the the Bernie Bros side, like the far left identitarian activist base in the Democratic Party, they're going to hate it. Like,
Yeah, and the whole Bloomberg thing, which is hilarious, is that I forget who it was, but I'm not going to quote somebody because the last person I've heard about 15 people recite what I'm about to say. So I'm not going to give credit to any of them because so much of conservatism these days is just repeating a great talking point you found on Twitter, stolen by somebody else. So much of conservatism is just theft these days. It's just you steal from a small account and you repackage it. In many cases, don't even repackage it and put it out there. But one thing I heard said about the Bloomberg, well, we lost reception and probably lost our place. So take us out, cats.
yes, forgive us, people. I have terrible internet, and yeah, you'd think living in California that I'd have the best internet ever, but I really don't. So the question that I have posed or had tried to pose a minute ago was how is this going to work with Bloomberg and Trump, both presumably New York billionaire tough guys, but very different. Trump is very he definitely speaks to the common man, whereas Bloomberg personifies this hyper corporate, stopping your soda cups, like he's big business, definitely. He does not come across as accessible. So they've tried to say that he's fearless and he's just based. He's going to say whatever he needs to say. But that's definitely going to piss off the identitarian far left base in the Democrats, considering some of the more, should we say, interesting things that he said about his experience, which aren't necessarily wrong either, but are not necessarily good in the eyes of Democrats about minorities and crime statistics, for instance. So how is that going to play out?
Well, all right. So first, that's all right. So that's a broad brush. So first, let's start with the tough guy thing. The tough guy thing starts, and I'm not going to talk about the videos of Bloomberg doing Broadway as Mary Poppins and
Oh my
flying
God.
away with an umbrella. If you haven't seen those clips, please go see those clips. Let's start with about, I believe, fact check me. It was a year ago, in and about, that Bloomberg was saying, no, I would never run for the presidency because I would have to go on what CNN calls an apology tour and apologize for everything that I want to do and debase that I've ever done and debase myself. And so I would never do that. Fast forward to now where he's on an apology tour. Tucker Carlson has said night after night, Bloomberg made a huge dent in crime and violent offenses by stop and frisk, and that it was his most effective policy and the only effective gun control policy that Tucker could ever get behind or has ever seen. And I agree. And fast forward to now where he's saying, well, I didn't know. I had to be instructed and told by 9-year-old transgender people of color how that affects impoverished communities. So he's not tough. When Trump came on the scene, he was giving this Tea Party back when, I know, always Andrew Breitbart. Back when Andrew Breitbart started the Tea Party with, Alan West and all them. Trump was saying there's two types of ways you can tell China to stop what they're doing. You can say, listen, I really don't think you guys should keep dumping steel and scrap on us and pig iron. And I really wish you would stop raising tariffs. Or you can say, look, you motherfuckers, you better fucking not raise these fucking taxes. And Trump really said that. He said, look, you motherfuckers. And this is a speech he gave for the Tea Party. He's never apologized for anything. Even at that, when they were like, well, you've called women hogs, dogs, fat pigs, and slobs. What did he say? Did he say, I'm so sorry? No, he said, only Rosie O'Donnell. Like, so who's the tough guy? Mike Bloomberg's not a tough guy at all.
No, it's not. It's not going to work.
He's a gold tower New Yorker, like literally the monopoly guy, and Trump is like a badass motherfucker. He really is. He's like 6'5". He takes no shit from anybody. He's tough as nails.
I didn't even think about that. Trump is really tall, and Bloomberg's actually quite short, isn't he?
He's like 5'3".
Because these are stupid things, but like there are amazingly. Well, I mean, let's put it this way: these are not deep issues, but there are a lot of things that people respond to about presidents, like tall. Usually, I don't think we've ever had. Someone said at one point we've never had a bald president, for instance. Or like I'm sure we have, but like not in the age of television.
No, but I get what you're saying. Like,
he's a short little bald man against a tall man with hair, but just optically, I mean, can you imagine them on the debate stage? They're going to look ridiculous next to each other.
And it's why Trump is so brilliant, because he said there was this thing where he puts out this comment where he goes, I think it's totally unfair that they're going to give Bloomberg a box to stand on. Does everyone else get a box? There was no one said anything about that. I don't even think that Bloomberg asked for one. He might have, but Trump just put it out there.
That's how brilliant it is that I have to ask, even though I know it's probably false. Did they actually give him?
Okay, all right. Thank you. That's all right. That's exactly. It puts it in your mind like, wait, Bloomberg asked for a box, and you start laughing. But I don't think he did ask for a box. Trump has zero evidence of that claim. None. Yet,
and they're going to call it fake news, but they don't understand. I love how people talk about decorum and all that when it's, when it suits their side. But I mean, like, you look back to presidents back in the 1800s. I mean, they used to literally shoot each other. Like, the things that they would say about each other. The whole
decorum thing, they told what they did to Mitt Romney, what they did to Bush, what they did to Reagan, it's all bullshit. Only the right needs decorum. Their people can do whatever they want. But the thing is, Trump just saying that, I don't think it's fair that Bloomberg's asking for a box. People are like, Bloomberg didn't ask for a box, but wait, did he? To the average person, the optics of it is what matters. It's like when the fake news puts out a story that's totally bullshit. It gets 100,000 retweets, and then they retract it 2 days later, and it gets 2,000 retweets. A lie travels twice across the world before the truth has time to put its boots on. But that's true. And the optics of Donald Trump, you can say what you want. He's out of shape. He's got funny hair. Fine. But the optics of Donald Trump, 6'5", imposing, hard man, next to 5'3" Mike Bloomberg on a debate stage. They'll have to give him a box, or else it'll look like Trump's debating a child.
Well, you want to bet that there will be some sort of like stool or something behind that podium to let him stand on when the debate actually comes by.
I think that was kind of the reason for Trump's comment.
Because
if they do it, they'll be watching for it. One right-wing stagehand. That's all it takes. One right-wing stagehand at the debates. One Trump aide with a camera phone. That's all it takes. And
not even that, just like one bad angle from one of the news coverage on YouTube.
Right.
But
And it'll be an ad. It'll be an ad.
And the thing is, they can try to make, no matter how much they try to attack about something like that, he is definitely a brilliant strat. This is why I get so angry when people say that he's stupid. It's like, no, you're misinterpreting the clown mask for an imbecile. Like, no, he's playing the fool, but the fools are the ones that actually in the court were the ones that actually had the king's ear, because they were the only ones who could say what was real.
And more importantly, the whole clown mask. Like, I hear a lot of people fall into that trap. Like, well, he plays the fool. I don't even really think he does. I think that he definitely steps outside the bounds of like decorum. But I think that much of what people, when they say Trump wears a clown mask, they're getting that from the mainstream media. I do think that he plays 4D chess, to be honest. I mean, I've read The Art of the Deal. I would recommend it. I think that he wrote about this decades ago, and that this is a strategy. And if it wasn't strategy, how did he beat the two most powerful political dynasties in U.S. history?
Because he was the only one willing to be honest at a time where people wanted to be. And when people talk about, yeah, he lies. He's a politician. Of course he lies. But when
I lie.
Well, I never lie, for instance.
But
ever.
You're literally the only person I ever met that's never lied. You're the only person.
I'm incapable
of lying. You're the only person I've ever met that's never told a lie, and that's why I love you. But most of us do.
Yeah, I'm never going to run for president because, that probably I can't imagine anything more disastrous than that. Well, you and I running for president and vice president, that would be pretty oh my god.
Let's do it. I think we have a shot.
Maybe we can get sponsored by the Smirnoff company.
How dare you? You know what? See, he's calling me an alcoholic, but the thing is, I don't drink Smirnoff like some peasant.
I drink.
I'm Mike Bloomberg, bitch.
You
I
drink Gold Lager.
Finest spirits.
Drink Gold Lager.
It's Goldschlager. Jesus Christ.
That was a test to see if you knew what it was called.
You know what? If we were talking about crack cocaine, Cass would fucking tell you every type of brand. But oh no, not alcohol. All right, no, wait. Hold on. Wait. Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
We're talking about optics. Mike Bloomberg, Trump. And by the way, I'm 5'8". I'm not a big man. I'm just, to the folks back at home, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being short, but the optics are important. But you have the optics thing. The short, the imposing figure. How did you watch the Democrat debates, or at least highlights?
I've seen bits and pieces here and there, but I just can't be bothered. I don't care about what they have to say.
But what did you hear anything about Warren savaging Bloomberg?
I think I heard something about it. Why don't you tell me about it?
All right. So, the beginning of the debate, Warren brutalized Bloomberg. Tucker had a line saying, I've heard of some really freaky tastes, but to pay $450 million to get spanked by Elizabeth Warren on live television, that's a new one. So she spanked him. And so that's all anyone knows, is that Mike Bloomberg got devastated in the debate, which is true at the beginning. But here's something for optics, and this is what we're talking about. Donald Trump's debates, he savaged everybody. The times that he was hit or even, glanced or grazed by his opponents, you never heard about it because it wasn't news. But Bloomberg, he gets savaged by Warren at the beginning, and I'll grant that. But the rest of the debate, I think Bloomberg cleaned up. I thought he was the greatest person on the whole debate stage. He killed everybody, especially Bernie. But none of us heard about that. And here's why. The optics for someone like Bloomberg versus Trump the optics for Trump are always going to be this. We know he is a womanizer. We know he's a bombast. We know he's very ostentatious. So you can't hit him with that. But someone like Bloomberg, when you start throwing a little mud their way, it sticks. What are your thoughts on Bloomberg not really being tested in this way ever?
I think that it's like what you're saying, not just for the Trump v. Bloomberg situation, but also the Republican versus Democrats, because the kind of things that Democrats view as negative about Trump, for most of his fan base, would actually be viewed as virtues. He's, you can call him boorish and, blunt and all that, but a lot of most people interpret it as just honest and fearless. But Democrats can't really get away with that because, or at least not if they want to win their own party, because although there is an element of the Democrats who have that populist, desire to get back to their, the working roots, like, fire and unions and all that craziness, like the identitarians and the champagne socialists that have taken over large swaths of the party will not accept it, and it will fragment the party if they do. So people who want to play the game in the Democrats are going to try to waffle between the two, which doesn't really work. But if you try to ignite either base, that's the problem. The Democrats have two bases and the Republicans have one. And you can't be happy, you can't please two opposite sides in the same house. Like a house divided will always be divided against itself. I think that's not quite the expression, but you know what I'm saying.
That is the most important, profound, and most brilliant thing that is probably going to be said on this podcast, and that I'm not even kidding, that I've heard on this topic, period, because everyone's focused on the individual aspect, but I never even thought about it in the lens of I actually I want to digest that and think about that, and we could do an episode on that alone. The fact that, well, number one, they're already looking at a brokered convention. I mean, the Bernie, Bloomberg, Buttigieg, the Triple B. I really doubt. And Warren, by the way, people are counting her out. I've only seen Warren signs in people's front yards where I'm from. But the fact that, yes, a house divided, because if Bernie loses, the Bernie bros are going to do what they did last time, either sit it out or vote Trump out of spite. But yeah, that was actually perfectly put, is that it's the fact that we wanted a fighter so bad, we got Trump. We never, but the fact that the Democrat, they can't ever make a mistake. If they do, 50% or more of their social media base, which is important. If people say only 2% of the population's on Twitter, that doesn't matter. That 2% educates their coworkers, educates their family, but
to say nothing of what happens to the news. I mean, the news is basically just Twitter at this point.
It is. It's just all stolen from Twitter. It really is, especially people that we listen to. Like Ben Shapiro's whole show is stolen from Twitter. Like his entire show. So yeah, you're right. It's that the Democrats, if you don't have a pure candidate, like the most brilliantly perfect candidate who's never said a bad word, they can't win. But the problem is the catch-22 is a pure candidate who's never said a bad word could never win.
No, because they wouldn't. I mean, it's humanly impossible. And I don't know if there is such a thing at this point as a perfect candidate for the Democrats, because how are you they're in irreconcilable positions. How are you going to resolve business centrism and, moderate social liberalism with far left identity-based anti-capitalism? That's like
right. Oh, keep going. I was saying. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. There's no middle ground. It's like it's like trying to make a Prius into a race car. It's like it can only be one or the other. You can't have a fuel efficient vehicle that also goes really fast, and because they're going across purposes at that point.
Right, but here's what you were talking about, and here's the issue, and this is why it's so profound, is that right now in the Democrat Party, you have the firebrand socialists who are totally against free markets, and that's roughly half of their party. Roughly. Less than half, maybe 40%.
But,
But
but a
it's
big
up
chunk,
there.
a
Right,
big
a
enough chunk to
huge.
determine whether they can win or not.
Exactly. That's exactly. So you have, let's say it's 35% that's socialist, let's say.
Mhm. Yeah, that's probably
And
about
they might not call themselves that, but their policies are relieve student
it.
debt, really,
They're at least
Medicare
they're in
for
that
all.
camp at least.
And so what it's looking like to me is if there is a brokered convention, meaning there's not a clear candidate that has won enough delegates to win the nomination, so it'll be a bloodbath, then I think we have a very good chance that this biggest fear, it's worse than socialism, is that what's going to end up happening is the Democrat Party is going to be split into two groups, which is like AOC said. She said in Europe they have far left, not far left, but left parties. Here, if we were in Europe, I wouldn't be in the same party as Joe Biden, meaning we'd be in two different parties, and they clearly are. But my biggest fear is that what's going to end up happening, the Democrat Party, Bernie will either win or lose, but win or lose, they're going to split in half. And then Republicans will win for time immemorial. And if we have a one-party system, that's a bad way to live. And I'm a right winger. I want us to win, but we need a loyal opposition because if we don't, you get corruption. The
The
cream can't rise to the top if you're literally swimming in scum.
We've talked about this before. Yeah, like the Democrats are the they're definitely moving towards a split, and I don't know how well our political system isn't really set up for multi parties. It's really set up to be a duopoly.
Right.
So, I mean, I guess one step at a time. Like all we can do is just wait and see. Because I know the Democrats, I'm sure, are aware of this, but what exactly can they do about it other than just try to, um, other than trying to sabotage Republicans? But that's only going to work so well. I know that there are those that talk about the demographic replacement as a method to counteract this problem. Yes, yeah. But that's a long-term solution. And if the party ends up splitting before that, it won't matter what demographs are if there are multiple parties, because then they'll just be splitting them up according to their interests.
But the thing is, the right will never split up. I mean, as the left is doing, because we're looking now at a left wing that is fractured, that is about to split half of its voter base in two, or its entire voter base in half, rather. And if that happens, why would we do that? And
It's
so you'll have one of two things: our people, well, me. I mean, you and I have you and I are very similar politically, but I'm big into demographic change. I'm big into curbing it. But if those people, if the left fractures, the only reason immigration ever got into the right, like immigration was always right wingers saying, bring us all the cheap labor you can get. The only reason that we ever got a voice saying no more immigration, we need to chill for a while, is because the left was so strong and unified that the right, like people like Paul Ryan, Jeb Bush is basically an open borders type guy, is because they couldn't win without us. And so they brought us in via Donald Trump. But if the left fractures, the right and the establishment right will have no more use for us. And they'll believe me, the establishment right is all for open borders. But I just want to bring back to Bloomberg. What do you think about this concept? Bloomberg, the Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton type establishment corruptocrat Democrats, Bloomberg is like when you're in basketball and you're having a losing season, you bring in a ringer. You call in a ringer. You call in someone, a great kid from another school, offer him a scholarship and say, come play for us. Bloomberg is the last death throes of the Democrat establishment because they see their party is being taken over by socialists, something they did to themselves. But is it not true that Bloomberg is just literally the embodiment of the establishment Democrats saying, please, dear God, this is our last chance. Let's get the richest guy we can find?
I think you are definitely correct. I mean, you heard what Tim Pool called the way the Democrats are treating Bloomberg, right?
No.
Deal with the devil.
Right?
Yeah.
Well said.
Because I mean, like, literally, it's one of the things I didn't know. Bloomberg has more money than Trump, and it's funny as
Lot
wealthy
more money.
as well, and got it in much less obvious ways than Trump. I mean, like, Trump has a lot of money, and has had a lot of extravagant schemes and investment, but you can pretty well understand where Trump's fortune comes from. It comes from him, his brand, his shrewd personality and business dealings. No, people are asked all the time, where the hell did Bloomberg get his money from?
China.
Yeah, and that's
China.
yeah, I don't think that will. You know what though? I gotta tell you, I can't wait for the debates because do you think that it's going to be Bloomberg versus Trump in the debates? Do you think that, or do you
I'm
think?
calling it right now. It's going to be Bernie or it's going to be. All right, well, it's going to be Bernie, number one. It's going to be Bernie Trump. It's, in my opinion. Even though it's striking to me that Warren is doing so poorly because I remember saying to my dad like a year and a half ago, people weren't even really running yet. And I kept seeing Warren everywhere. And that's anecdotal. I mean, I live in Pittsburgh. Maybe it's just my city. But the path I take MAGA to walk, there are, in one city block, there are two Warren signs, two houses with Warren signs. They're all over the city. Warren, Warren, Warren. I don't see many. I see a couple Bernie bumper stickers. That's it. But it's going to be Bernie, I think. I don't think Bloomberg, unless they do what they did with Hillary and Bernie and cheat, because they clearly cheated in Iowa before Bloomberg for Buttigieg. But if it's Bernie, will win, and I'm calling it now, 47 states exactly. We're not going to win Cali. We're not going to win Massachusetts. Might be 46, but I'm saying 47 on camera right now. But that'll be the greatest debate of all time because it's not even close between Trump and Bernie where the country is. Who do you think's going to win?
Yeah, I think it's at this point. Are you talking about for the overall outcome or the Democrats?
No, the nomination. How does it
Oh,
not be? Bernie just packed a 17,000 person stadium.
the it would make sense for it to be Bernie, but the Democrats really don't like him, and they've already done it once before, and Bernie was more popular before, to be honest. I think like when he was new on the scene the first time around, Bernie was like a messianic figure to people like my dad, and I mean I think he's still got a really strong fan base, but it's more there's more people in the race now that people have strong feelings about. Like
But
Warren
when
support.
Warren drops out, where do you think all those? They keep saying this thing where, excuse me, they say, well, the moderates actually won more votes than the liberals because, if you put Buttigieg, none of these people are moderates, by the way, but if you put Buttigieg and Biden and Klobuchar together, they won more than Bernie and Warren. The thing is, where do you think all the Warren votes go when she drops out? They're not. None of the Warren people are going to vote for anyone but Bernie. Bernie
Yeah,
is a juggernaut, and I'm telling you, last time Bernie was running against Hillary, not 45 people. The minute the other people start dropping out, and I'll tell you this: if the moderates want Bloomberg to win, Buttigieg and Biden need to drop out right now. Right now. Lend their support to Bloomberg or else. Because if they don't, they are so fucked. They're so fucked. Bernie is on a roll, but it's back to your purity test thing. Bernie has said things about women and rape. He said that a woman's fantasy is to get gang raped by like 4 men. Like that's like what most women's fantasies are. Like
And
he can't pass his purity test.
the biggest problem with Bernie also is that he looks so pathetic on stage against his own supporters. I mean, like he can do his old man bluster on a controlled stage where no one's allowed, but the moment someone stops playing by the rules, even just a little bit, I mean, like this is what now, like the second, third time that he's been cucked on stage by just random angry women.
At least last time it was a gang of Black Lives Matter people. This was just some cute vegan naked chick. How's he going to stand up against Putin if he can't stand up? A vegan chick? A naked vegan chick. He couldn't have been like, beat it, dirtbag. No, you ran away. Now,
and I'm completely... Oh, so no, go ahead.
No, please, go ahead. All I do is go.
This is not a particularly useful question, but I can't help but ask it. So what do you think would happen if somehow the naked vegan chick got onto Trump's stage? Can you imagine what would happen?
Okay.
There's no...
This goes back to the optics thing. A lot of people would hate him for it, but number one, Trump's security guards and people like that are loyalists. They wouldn't let that chick get 100 yards within Trump. But if she did, do you think that little girl could take Trump's microphone? You got Bernie, all right? Like this. Oh, sorry, Max. Say hi. Yeah, Bernie, like, now we're going to start a revelation. Next thing, the billionaires, and I used to not like the millionaires, and then I became a millionaire, and this little girl just yanks his microphone, like he's a child. If it was Trump, big hulking imperial Trump, get the fuck out of here. If you think that little girl, I couldn't take Trump's microphone.
I'm just imagining it's like, oh my God, you're embarrassing yourself. You're horrible. Go away. No one wants to see that.
Go back to mommy. Go back to mommy.
Someone get this woman a clothes.
She's a bum. And by the way, those tits, 2 thumbs down. Trump's like, I wish I had more hands so I could give them titties 4 thumbs down.
It would be glorious. I think that's about as any good note as to end it on, is that, yeah, no matter what happened, Bloomberg is an interesting distraction, but it seems unlikely. If he could win the nomination, but if he does, it won't be legitimate, and it will be even worse than the Hillary phenomenon all over again, because the Bernie Bros will never forgive them.
It'll splinter. It'll make the Democrat Party in a way that they'll never recover from.
Ever.
And it's like they said, they're like, there was this rich asshole, this liberal rich asshole who was like, I hate Trump, but Bloomberg is like everything I hate about Trump, but worse. Like, I know Trump says sexist things. I know he says racist things. We just haven't caught him on camera. We have Bloomberg being who we know Trump really is behind closed doors.
It's just, I'm shaking my head. It's going to be quite the circus, and I really can't wait.
We should live stream it.
Oh, that would be awesome.
The debate.
Well,
whoever Trump does, you and I should start doing live streams for it.
We'll have to figure out how to do that. That would be amazing.
That would be fantastic.
All right, everyone. Well, if you made it this far in the video, I both love and pity you. So please like, share, subscribe. We always forget to tell people to do that. Please share this video because YouTube is eventually going to delete this channel, I'm sure. But until then, inflict us on other people, if nothing else, just to show that you care about their suffering. It's been our Cat's Gay with my best friend Jewpiter. signing off.